My parents said, your sister's housewarming is more important than your little work thing. About my promotion to lieutenant. Grandpa pinned me instead and dropped a bomb that left my family begging and drowning in debt. Hey Reddit, long time lurker, first time posting something this personal. My family's always had this way of making me feel like background noise while my sister got the spotlight. I used to shrug it off, figured that's just how things were. But over the years, it piled up more than I care to admit. Eventually, it reached a point where even I couldn't laugh it off anymore. So yeah, here's how it all went down when I finally stopped playing the quiet one. So I guess I should start with a little context. I, David, 28 male, and I just got promoted to lieutenant at my fire department. Fancy title, I know, but it basically means I get more paperwork, more responsibility, and still have to scrub out the coffee pot when the probie forgets. The badge is shiny though, I'll give them that. Now, here's the thing. My family should be excited for me, right? Dad should be bragging at his bowling league. Mom should be sending "we're proud" texts. And my sister, well, she should probably be doing literally anything other than what she's been doing for the last 2 decades. But nah. If you've ever seen how some families pick a golden child and then treat the other kid like background noise, then congratulations. You already know my whole childhood. My sister Helga is 2 years older than me. If you ask my parents, she hung the moon, reinvented electricity, and probably cured the common cold in her free time. Reality check. She once failed her driver's test 3 times, and Dad still acted like she was the first woman to land on Mars when she finally passed. Meanwhile, I rebuilt the engine on a beat-up Civic when I was 17, using nothing but a YouTube playlist and busted knuckles. And the reaction I got was, "Don't get grease on the driveway." Cool, thanks, Dad. That's pretty much the pattern. Helga gets a participation trophy. Frame it, hang it in the living room. I win medals in debate, science fairs, whatever. I get a good. That's the bare minimum. I stopped bringing stuff home after a while because why bother? Nothing sucks the fun out of an achievement faster than having it graded like homework. One of my earliest memories is Christmas when I was maybe 4. Helga unwrapped this bright pink brand new bike, shiny ribbons on the handlebars. The whole 9 yards. Everyone's taking pictures, clapping like she just won the Tour de France. My turn comes, I unwrap a used book. Inside cover still had "To Jessica, love Aunt May" scribbled in it. Dad tells me, "We'll take a picture later, Dave." Spoiler, later never came. I just sat there holding that book while Helga did laps around the tree with her bike bell dinging. Even at 4 years old, I remember thinking, okay, I get it. I'm the understudy here. And Helga knew it too. She wasn't dumb. She figured out early she could weaponize being the favorite. Once, when I was like 9, she sneaked into my room and ripped up photos of me with friends, then wrote "Nobody likes you" across my homework planner. I showed Mom, thinking maybe for once she'd step in. Instead, she sighs and says, "Don't provoke your sister, David. She's sensitive." Sensitive? The girl was a one-child demolition crew. By high school, I'd basically given up trying to compete. I poured myself into things I could control: schoolwork, art class, and eventually the fire cadet program. The cadet program was the first time I felt like I wasn't invisible. You put in the work, people noticed. You studied, drilled, showed up. You earned respect. Nobody cared who your sister was or how many times she failed her driver's test. Of course, Helga couldn't let that slide. She tried to spread rumors at school. Stuff like I was a try-hard or teacher's pet. I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting, but eventually it just became noise. The more she tried to tear me down, the more obvious it became to everyone else that she was threatened by me actually doing something with my life. The breaking point with my parents came when Helga shoved me during an argument my senior year. I hit my head on a shelf, blood everywhere, ended up needing stitches. Even then, Dad's response was, "It couldn't have been intentional. Don't ruin your sister's future over one mistake." Mom begged me not to file a report, said it would destroy the family. Imagine bleeding into a towel in the backseat of your dad's car while your parents lecture you about protecting your sister's reputation. That's when I stopped kidding myself. So I packed a bag and called Grandpa Joe. He and Grandma June were the only ones who ever treated me like a person. Grandpa didn't ask a million questions. He just said, "Pack your things. I'll be there in an hour." Living with them was the first time I felt like my presence wasn't a burden. They'd ask about my day and actually listen. Grandma made way too much food and sent me to school with leftovers. Grandpa would sit with me in the garage while I studied, sometimes tinkering with his old tools, sometimes just keeping me company. By the time I graduated, I had a plan. Get into the fire academy, work my way up, and build a life where nobody could take credit except me. And here we are now, 10 years later, standing on the edge of a promotion ceremony where my family should be front row. but we all know how that's going to go. So yeah, that's the beginning of this saga. And honestly, looking back, it's almost funny. My parents spent years telling me I was nothing compared to Helga, and now I'm the one getting pinned with a lieutenant's badge, while Helga's big accomplishment is, what, finally moving out after living in their basement till almost 30? Yeah, I can already feel the storm brewing. And sure enough, it didn't take long. For a split second, though, I actually thought maybe this time would be different. I'd finally hit a milestone even they couldn't brush off. Lieutenant isn't small. It's not some participation ribbon. So yeah, I'll admit it. I was proud. Proud enough that I even sent them the official invitation, thinking maybe this would be the one thing they'd actually show up for. Maybe for once they'd see me and be satisfied. A week before the ceremony, my phone lit up with Dad's name. I hadn't seen that in months. Usually it was silence. Maybe a dry happy birthday if he remembered. For a second, I thought maybe this was it. He'd finally called to say he was proud. I picked up. Hey, no hello. Just straight to it. We won't be coming to your ceremony. Helga's housewarming is the same day. That was it. No congratulations, no nothing. Just like he was canceling a dentist appointment. I said, calm but sharp. You're skipping my promotion because she's throwing a party? You're really telling me her passing out cheese plates means more than me getting lieutenant? Dad didn't even flinch. She worked hard for her home. This is important to her. I gave a short laugh. Yeah, because no one's ever moved into a house before. Meanwhile, I'm moving into a leadership role that took years to earn. And you're acting like it's a Tuesday chore. That's when Mom jumps in, laughing. David, you think you're that important? You really think the world stops for your little work thing? I snapped back instantly. Little work thing? I've been dragging hose lines at 3 in the morning, patching up people you'd never even look at twice, and training until I couldn't feel my hands. That's not little. Helga's party? That's little. Dad comes back smug. Your sister worked hard for her house. That matters more. Your ceremony is just city fluff. People forget those in a week. A house is forever. I leaned in. Forever. Until she misses a payment and you bail her out again. Let's not pretend a housewarming somehow outranks a badge I earned on my own. You can keep spinning it, but one of these is career. The other is chips and dip. Silence for a second. Then Mom snaps, you're always making things about you. Why can't you just be happy for your sister? I shook my head even though they couldn't see it. Because you're acting like me getting promoted doesn't exist. I'm not competing with her. I'm just asking you to show up once in my life. You couldn't manage it. Dad tried to shut me down. Don't be dramatic. It's just a ceremony. I cut him off. If mine is just a ceremony, then hers is just a party. You can't downgrade one and glorify the other. That's not how logic works. His voice got hard. You need to learn respect. I'm your father. I fired right back. Respect's not automatic. You earn it. And you don't earn it by skipping every milestone I've ever had. You gave that spot up years ago. Mom gasped like I'd cursed. How dare you? We gave you everything. I actually laughed. Everything? Hand-me-down bikes, second-hand clothes, and lectures about how Helga was the star? Yeah, thanks for the generosity. Dad tried the power move. If I say I'm not doing it, then nobody else should either. That badge pinning is my role. I didn't blink. Then you should be there. But you're not willing to. That's the end of it. He sputtered. You wouldn't dare let anyone else. I will, I said, cutting him clean. You're going to be off the program. Grandpa's pinning me. He actually shows up. That makes him more qualified than you'll ever be. That stopped them cold. Finally, Mom hissed, you'll embarrass the whole family, letting that old man play pretend. Everyone will see it. Good, I said. Let them see who stepped up and who ran off to a house party. No one's confused anymore. And they had nothing left. The silence dragged, so I ended it. Enjoy the housewarming. I'll enjoy my promotion. Then I hung up. I didn't waste another second. Called the admin captain, told him to take Dad off the program. Copy that, he said. Done. Then I texted Grandpa Joe. Would you pin it instead? Dad bailed. He answered instantly. About time. Bring the badge by. I'll polish it myself. And for the first time that week, I smiled. The week leading up to the ceremony felt like two separate lives. On one hand, I was squared away at the station. Paperwork, uniform prep, program finalized. On the other, my phone kept lighting up with proof that my family had no intention of just quietly sitting this one out. They couldn't come to the ceremony, but they sure found time to make it miserable. It started with Helga. A buddy at the station sent me a screenshot from her Facebook. She had posted, "Some people think wearing a costume and a fake badge makes them heroes. LOL cosplay firefighter much? Can't believe the city actually throws parties for this stuff. Yeah, that was her take. My promotion was cosplay. Guys in my crew showed me on shift, some laughing, some pissed on my behalf. I told them to forget it. But inside, I was boiling. I didn't even have to clap back. Her own comment section was full of her friends going, "Isn't your brother the real deal?" And, "You sound jealous." Still, that was her move. Cut me down in public, then act innocent at home. Next was Dad. He called the department. Not me, not even my captain. He went straight to the training office and told them he was concerned about me leading people. Said I was hot-headed, immature, and that I always put myself first. The captain pulled me aside, almost embarrassed, and said, "We got a call from your dad. Don't worry, we know it's garbage. If anything, it shows how far in your head you are." Imagine that. Your own father trying to sabotage your career the week you get promoted. If that's not entitlement, I don't know what is. Like if he couldn't be part of the spotlight, then no one else should have it either. Grandpa dropped by one night, sat in my kitchen while I went over everything. He picked up the badge, turned it in his hand like it weighed more than it did, and said, "They can laugh online all they want. This is real. Don't let them cheapen it." The difference between him and my dad was night and day. Grandpa didn't need the spotlight. He just respected the work. Still, the family wasn't done. Helga messaged one of my old high school friends, Brooke, and told her she should consider showing up to David's little event. Claimed it was going to be awkward without the family there, and that I was making Grandpa do things he was too old for. Brooke sent me the messages with a "What is wrong with her?" attached. I didn't even reply. Screenshotted, saved, archived. Of course, Dad tried one more stunt. He left a voicemail saying, "If you let your grandfather pin you, you'll regret it. That's my role. Nobody else has the right. If I say no, it's no." I saved it. Didn't even respond. Because the truth is, I didn't need his approval. And the more he talked, the more obvious it became to everyone watching. It wasn't about me. It was about him losing control. Grandpa, on the other hand, took it seriously. He came back the day before the ceremony with the badge polished like glass. "Your father called me," he said. "Tried to tell me to back down. Said I was stepping out of line." I asked, "And what did you tell him?" Grandpa smirked. "Told him I've been stepping in for him your whole life. No sense stopping now." That hit me harder than anything else that week. He was right. He had been filling that role all along. Every ball game, every graduation, every time Dad was too busy boosting Helga, he'd been the one clapping in the stands. So yeah, while my parents and sister were busy making posts, calls, and backroom plays, I was ironing my shirt, setting my boots by the door, and handing my badge to the man who actually earned the right to pin it. They thought they were humiliating me. What they really did was prove why they weren't wanted there in the first place. The program was locked. Guest list finalized. No last-minute changes allowed. Security tight. Dad's name was out. Grandpa's name was in. And no amount of Facebook posts or phone calls was going to change that. Ceremony day hit like a freight train. I woke up early, uniform already pressed and laid out from the night before. Boots polished so hard you could see your reflection. Badge gleaming like it had never been touched. I drove to the city auditorium with my heart steady, not racing. This wasn't nerves. It was clarity. The place was packed. Rows of chairs, flags lined up, podium in the middle, badges and certificates laid neatly on the table. My crew was already there, cracking jokes, slapping me on the back. "About time, LT," one of them said. That hit harder than any family approval ever could. Roll call started. Each name called, each new promotion announced. Applause, handshakes, photos. Then they got to mine. "Firefighter David?" The chief's voice echoed through the room. "Promoted to lieutenant." I stood, walked up front, shook hands, repeated the oath with a steady voice. No stumbles, no hesitation. Then the MC said the line. "Pinning will be performed by his grandfather, Joe." The whole room shifted a little, like people noticed the absence of my parents. But then Grandpa walked up. Light gray suit, pressed shirt, flower on his lapel. He wasn't nervous, he wasn't shy. He walked like he owned the place. He fastened the badge to my chest slow and steady, hands firm. Then he leaned into the mic and said, "He earned this the hard way." Nobody handed it to him. The room went silent for a second. Then the applause hit. Loud, sharp, real. It wasn't polite clapping. It was respect. People nodded, a few even whistled. My captain shot me a grin. Grandpa just patted my shoulder like it was another day at the office. Photos followed. Command staff, the crew, me standing tall with Grandpa and Grandma beside me. The only empty space was where my parents should have been. And you know what? It didn't feel empty. It felt cleaner. After the ceremony, while people were shaking hands and mingling, Grandpa pulled out his phone. Not some old flip phone either. He had a brand new iPhone he barely knew how to use. But today he was a pro. He snapped photos of me with the badge, me with my crew, him pinning me. Then, right in front of me, he dropped them into the family group chat. The caption? For those who couldn't make it, here's what showing up looks like. I swear I almost lost it laughing right there. Grandma rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. It didn't take long before the group chat lit up. Cousins, uncles, random extended family members started replying, "Congrats, David! Why weren't your parents there?" Wait, what do you mean Grandpa pinned him? The confusion was instant. Grandpa saw the messages rolling in and just kept typing. Ask his parents why they thought a housewarming was more important. The man had no filter. Pure legend. Helga tried damage control first. She dropped in, "We had a conflict. Stop making it a big deal." Grandpa shot back, "Conflict? He's your brother. It's once in a career. A housewarming can wait. You embarrassed yourselves, not him." Then one of my aunts chimed in with, "I thought parents always pinned. Why wasn't it his dad?" Grandpa, "Because his dad was too busy playing moving crew. Don't worry. I handled it better than he ever could." I couldn't stop laughing. People were liking his messages, adding clapping emojis. Even cousins I hadn't heard from in years wrote stuff like, "Wow, that's messed up. Congrats though, David." The chat turned into a pile-on, but for once it wasn't aimed at me. Meanwhile, at the ceremony, I kept it professional. Thanked the chiefs, shook hands with the mayor, posed for the official photos. Inside, though, I was watching my family's reputation unravel in real time, courtesy of Grandpa's thumbs. At one point, he leaned over to me, whispering like it was a secret. "Your dad just texted me privately. Says I'm disrespecting him." "What did you say back?" I asked. Grandpa grinned. "Told him respect is earned, not inherited." Sound familiar? That man was on fire. By the time we left the auditorium, my parents were practically cooked in the chat. Extended family asking why they weren't there, why Grandpa had to step up, why they'd let Helga's party matter more than my career. Mom tried the "we had no choice" excuse, but nobody was buying it. Grandpa ended it with one last message. "You always have a choice. You chose wrong. Don't blame me for showing up." And that was it. Silence from them after that. No apology, no correction, just shame hanging in the chat for everyone to see. On the ride home, Grandpa drove with one hand, phone buzzing with replies in the cup holder. "I don't usually like phones," he said casually, "but today was worth it." I couldn't stop laughing. He'd not only pinned me, he'd publicly aired them out in front of the entire family. And the best part? He did it without raising his voice, without looking bitter. He made it funny, cool, effortless. Back at the house, Grandma pulled me aside. "He's been waiting for years to say those things. He just never had the chance." I believed it. Because today wasn't just about the badge. It was about finally flipping the script. They wanted to treat me like I was nothing. Fine. Grandpa just showed the whole family who really stood where. I thought the ceremony would have been the peak of it. Badge pinned, photos shared, family exposed. Clean ending, right? Wrong. 3 days later, I came home from shift and found my parents sitting in my living room like they owned the place. They must have sweet-talked the landlord into letting them in, claiming it was an emergency. Bold move considering I never gave them permission. No invite, no warning, just sitting there on my couch drinking my bottled water like it was theirs. Helga was there too, scrolling her phone, not even looking up when I walked in. Dad didn't waste a second. That was my role. If I don't do it, nobody should. "You disrespected me." His voice had that fake calm, the kind where you know yelling is seconds away. I tossed my keys in the bowl and leaned against the counter. "You weren't there. Grandpa was." Pretty simple math. Mom jumped in like she was the referee. "Don't get smart, David. You know what you did. You embarrassed this family. Everyone's been talking about how ridiculous that ceremony looked with your grandfather trying to act like the parent." I laughed. Ridiculous? He nailed it. People actually clapped harder when he said those words. You should have heard it. Helga finally looked up. "Grandpa looked stupid. You embarrassed us. People are laughing at you." "Funny," I said, because the only people laughing seemed to be sitting on my couch uninvited. That's when Dad stood up and spotted the framed badge photo on the shelf. He walked over, pulled it down, and held it up. This is what you embarrassed us for?" Then, before I could even move, he dropped it on the floor and stomped on it. Glass cracked, frame split. He wasn't done. He marched down the hall, spotted the real badge sitting on my dresser from the night before, snatched it, and flicked it to the floor. Then he ground his heel across it like he was putting out a cigarette. I felt heat in my chest, but I didn't flinch. I just walked up, shoved him back hard enough that he stumbled against the wall. "Pick your foot up, Dad. That's not yours to touch." His face turned red. "You wouldn't dare put your hands on me?" I stared him dead in the eye. "Already did. And if you don't get out, I'll call the cops and report you for trespassing." He laughed like I was bluffing. "You wouldn't dare. You'd never put your own father in cuffs." "Try me," I said, pulling my phone out of my pocket. I had 911 pulled up on my screen, thumb hovering. "Want me to hit call?" Silence. For the first time, real silence. Helga's mouth was hanging open. Mom's eyes went wide. Dad looked like he wanted to say something but couldn't figure out the words. I bent down, scooped up the cracked frame, set it aside, then picked up my badge and brushed it off. "You want to know what embarrassing looks like? It's 3 grown adults breaking into their son's place to throw a tantrum over a ceremony they skipped. That's embarrassing." Mom finally found her voice. "You're ruining this family, David. You've been trying to make us look bad for years. You planned this to embarrass us." I barked a laugh. "Planned it? You mean you planned to skip it? I just didn't let you ruin it when you did." Helga tried again. "We had more important things to do. A housewarming is about the future. Your little badge doesn't matter in the long run." Dad stepped forward again, puffing his chest. "You think you're a man now because you wear a uniform? You're nothing without this family." I smirked. "Correction? I'm everything in spite of this family." Then I pointed at the door. "Last warning? Leave? Now, or I make the call." Mom hissed under her breath like I'd cursed at her in church. "You wouldn't do this to your own mother." I raised the phone and held it up so they could see the screen lighting up. "Watch me." Dad cursed, grabbed his jacket, and stormed out first. Mom followed, mumbling about how selfish I'd become. Helga trailed behind, muttering something about how I'd regret this when the family cut me off for good. Then I shut the door on all of them. I stood there for a minute, chest still tight, staring at the badge on the floor. I picked it up, brushed it off. The scratches from Dad's shoe were small, barely noticeable, but I kept staring at them. It wasn't about the metal being damaged. It was about the point he tried to make, that my accomplishment was worthless. And I realized right then that nothing I ever did would make them proud. Not ever. But here's the thing for once, I didn't care. I had Grandpa in my corner, a career I built on my back, and proof that I didn't need their approval. And if they thought stomping on my badge was going to break me, they just proved how little they actually understood me. The morning after that showdown, I drove over to Grandpa's place. He was out on his porch, sharpening his old pocket knife like it was some sacred ritual, the same one he's carried since the 70s. Grandpa wasn't big on words, but that knife always came out when he was in serious thinking mode. The man had this calm grin on his face, but the second I told him about the shit show my family did, the grin vanished. His jaw tightened, and he leaned back in his chair like he was about to call in an airstrike. "They did what?" he said, voice sharp. "Yeah," I answered. Picked it up, threw it down, stomped on it, said that's what I embarrassed them for. Grandpa set the knife carefully on the table, wiped his hands on his jeans, then stood up. He pointed a finger at me. "I've let them act like clowns long enough. It ends now." I raised an eyebrow. "And how exactly?" He smirked. "Simple. I'll feed them. People always come when they think there's free food. We'll call it a family dinner. Then I'll drop the hammer." I couldn't help laughing. "You're dead serious, aren't you?" "As serious as a heart attack," he said. "And if I get one at that table, at least I'll go out entertaining myself." So that weekend, Grandpa set it up. He didn't tell them what it was about, just sent out a message saying, "Family dinner. My place. Don't be late." When I showed up early to help him set the table, he was in rare form. He put a bottle of ketchup right in Dad's usual seat and muttered, "That's about the only thing he's qualified to handle." He was joking, but I swear he meant every word. By 7, the circus had arrived. Mom with her tight smile, Dad puffing out his chest like nothing had happened, and Helga glued to her phone, probably posting about her dream home again. Grandpa welcomed them in like it was Thanksgiving, all warm and casual, which threw them off. They sat down expecting small talk, but Grandpa didn't waste time. After a few minutes of passing around plates, he cleared his throat and said, "All right, let's get to it. I'm tired of favoritism in this family. I'm tired of seeing David treated like the extra piece at the table." Everyone froze. Helga looked up from her phone like she misheard. Mom tried to chuckle it off. "Grandpa, let's not start." He slammed his palm on the table. "Number you will sit and listen. I've watched this long enough. And I made my decision. I changed the will. Everything I've got, house, savings, land, it all goes to David. Grandma's on board too. She signed everything with me. We both agreed David should have it. You could have heard a pin drop. Helga's fork actually slipped out of her hand and clattered on the plate. Mom gasped. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm dead serious, Grandpa said, taking a big spoonful of potatoes, like this was just regular conversation. I worked too hard to let it end up with people who treat my grandson like dirt. Dad's face turned red. This is outrageous. You can't just erase us like that. Grandpa leaned back, grinning. I can, and I did. Lawyer already drew it up. Signed, sealed, delivered. Only way you're getting my house now is if you try to carry me out in it. That's when Mom snapped. You're rewarding him for embarrassing us? For making us look like bad parents? Grandpa laughed so hard he nearly spilled his water. You don't need David's help looking like bad parents. You managed that masterpiece on your own. I almost spit my drink out. Then Dad, clearly rattled, blurted out the one thing they'd been hiding. You think you're so high and mighty? Helga just bought her own home. That's more than he's ever done. You really gonna ignore that? Grandpa cocked his head. Bought her own home, huh? Dad hesitated a second too long, then slipped. Well, I co-signed, all right? Big deal. The silence was brutal. Helga's face went pale. Mom glared at Dad like he'd just confessed to murder. Grandpa just grinned wider. So let me get this straight, Grandpa said slowly. You skipped your son's ceremony, the one moment he asked you to show up for, because Helga had a housewarming. And that housewarming was for a house she didn't even fully buy. She's chained to your debt like a ball and chain. Helga snapped, It's still my house. Grandpa shook his head, chuckling. Honey, the bank owns your house. Your dad just volunteered to drown with you. I swear I nearly fell out of my chair laughing. That's when the begging started. Mom leaned in, her voice soft like she was bargaining. Dad, please, you can't do this. You know how hard things have been for us. We need the security too. Helga piled on. It's not fair. He doesn't even need it. I have a mortgage. I could lose everything. Grandpa shrugged. Should have thought about that before you mocked the one person actually carrying his own weight. Actions have consequences, sweetheart. Dad's fists tightened on the table. You're tearing this family apart. Grandpa stabbed a piece of meatloaf with his fork. Nope. I'm just finally giving the right person what he deserves. You tore the family apart years ago when you decided one kid mattered and the other didn't. For once, I didn't even have to say a word. Grandpa ran the whole show. He was in total control. Calm as a poker player, funny as hell, and absolutely ruthless. By the time dessert hit the table, Mom was pouting, Dad was sulking, and Helga was pretending to scroll her phone like her world wasn't caving in. Grandpa leaned back, gave me a wink, and said loud enough for all of them to hear. Not bad for a family dinner, huh? Best one I've had in years. And that was that. The weeks after that dinner were like watching a slow-motion car wreck. Ugly, but you couldn't look away. Word got out fast, thanks to Grandpa casually dropping a new round of photos of me with the badge in the family group chat. No captions at first, just one after another like a proud fanboy. Then he followed up with, strange how empty the family seats look. Wonder why? Helga's dream house started showing its true colors. Turns out co-signing a mortgage with Dad isn't the flex she thought it was. Bills stacked higher than her Instagram likes. The new furniture she bought on credit got repossessed within months. Neighbors whispered when they saw a truck out front hauling away her designer couch. Suddenly, the housewarming selfies looked like a museum of things she no longer owned. And socially, brutal. People started treating Helga like she was all smoke and mirrors. Friends who once hyped her up for being ahead in life stopped visiting when they realized she couldn't even keep lights on without Dad bailing her out. Her whole independent homeowner persona crumbled, and it was beautiful to watch from a distance. Mom and Dad weren't faring much better. Dad's pride took the hardest hit. At work, folks started whispering that he stomped on my badge. Grandpa told a couple of his buddies at the Legion, and it spread. Nobody wanted to be seen siding with the guy who threw a tantrum over his son's achievement. Then, the real begging started. It was a Saturday afternoon when I heard the knock. I opened the door, and there they were. Mom, Dad, Helga, all lined up like a bad sales team. Dad tried to go first, his voice lower than I'd ever heard it. Son, we might have been harsh, but you can't just let the family drown. We need you. You've got steady pay, benefits. We're sinking here. I leaned against the doorframe and smirked. Funny. Couple months ago you said I wasn't that important. Now suddenly I'm the lifeboat? Mom cut in, her tone soft and guilt-laced. David, please. You don't understand how much pressure we're under. Your sister could lose her home. We could lose everything. You wouldn't want that on your conscience." I let out a laugh, sharp and short. "On my conscience? You mean like how you watched me bleed from Helga's shove and told me tummin' up? Or when Dad stomped on my badge in my own living room? That kind of conscience?" Helga's face twisted. "Stop acting like you're perfect. You've embarrassed this family enough. If you cared at all, you'd help us fix this." That's when Grandpa's old pickup rolled up the street. He got out, saw the lineup at my door, and just shook his head with this wicked grin. "Oh, this is rich," he said, strolling up like he owned the block. "Begging now, are we?" Dad's voice cracked. "It's not like that." "Oh, it's exactly like that," Grandpa shot back. "You treated this boy like a piece of crap his whole life, and now you're hoping he'll wipe his feet on you instead. Not happening." They all started talking at once, pleading, blaming, trying to guilt-trip me into bailing them out. Dad claimed Grandpa poisoned me against them. Mom insisted they were just misunderstood. Helga outright demanded I step up because family sticks together. I finally raised my hand. "Enough. Here's the truth. You stomped on me every chance you got, and now you want me to play savior. Not happening. You made your bed. Lie in it." Dad's eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't let us crumble." I leaned forward, steady and calm. "Try me." Grandpa chuckled, clapped me on the back, and added, "Hell, I'll even loan you a pillow for that bed you made. You're gonna need it." The silence that followed was brutal. Mom's lip trembled. Helga looked like she wanted to throw her phone at me, and Dad just stood there red-faced, fists clenched, but no fight left in him. They left without another word, shuffling back to their car like kids who just got grounded. Over the next few months, the fallout only got worse. Helga defaulted on payments and had to downsize to a cramped apartment. Dad kept getting side-eyed at work until he eventually retired earlier than planned, bitterness practically eating him alive. Mom faded into the background, too embarrassed to show her face at church where everyone whispered about the badge stomper family. Me? I kept moving forward. Promotions, steady pay, and the kind of respect they never gave me but I earned anyway. Grandpa made good on his word too. He had me over every Sunday, always ending dinner with the same line. "Proud of you, kid. Best decision I ever made. Handing it all to you." And the family? They never fully bounced back. That night on my doorstep was the last time they tried begging. Guess they finally realized I wasn't the punching bag anymore. Grandpa summed it up perfectly the next time we talked about it. He leaned back in his chair, took a sip of water, and said, "Poetic justice, huh? Except we didn't need poetry. Just the truth and a little backbone. Couldn't have said it better myself."